Classroom Dynamics is supported by Logitech. As education continues to evolve, so does Logitech Education, your partner in content creation for the classroom. With Logitech's cutting-edge technology, students not only learn, but also become content creators. Whether it's in person or online, Logitech's tools are designed to inspire educators and learners alike. Logitech Education, inspiring the next generation of creators. For more, visit logitech.com/education. Transforming classrooms, one innovation at a time. Every classroom has the potential to be extraordinary, and the Logitech Reach adjustable content camera is your partner in making that happen. With its flexible arm and clear video, you can now showcase everything from detailed drawings to live experiments, ensuring that every student is engaged and involved. Whether you're teaching in person or online, Logitech Reach helps you connect with your students in a whole new way. Ready to take your lessons further? Visit logitech.com/reach and elevate your classroom to a whole new level. Welcome to Classroom Dynamics Bits and Bytes, the podcast within the podcast where we explore cutting-edge technologies for your classroom. Hi everybody, I'm your host Adam Todd. Today we're exploring what AI prompt engineering means, especially in elementary and middle school classrooms. Now let's start with the basics. When we talk about AI prompting, we're really talking about how we ask questions. Think of it this way. AI tools are powerful, but they rely on clear instructions. If the instructions are vague, the answers may be vague as well. A great way to explain this to a younger student is with a simple analogy. AI is like a super smart assistant, but it can only help you if you explain what you need clearly. For example, if a student uses generative AI and prompts, "Tell me about space," that's a prompt, yes, but it's very broad and the AI could give information about planets or astronauts or even galaxies. There isn't a specific that is presented. Now watch what happens when we improve the prompt. Now say, "Explain why the moon has phases in a way a fourth grader can understand." Now that's a much clearer prompt. It tells the AI the topic, the focus, and the audience level. One technique teachers can introduce is something called the three-part prompt. It looks like this. Specify the topic, what are you asking about? Give it a task, what do you want the AI to do? And then, of course, name the audience or format. Who is it for or how should it look? So, for example, when we prompt, "Write 3 fun facts about sharks for a 5th grade science class," the prompt is specific to the topic. We've asked what we'd like for it to do for us, and we know who it's for, a 5th grade science class. Now let's talk about something just as important, reprompting. Students should understand that the first answer from AI isn't always the final answer, and in most cases, it really shouldn't be. Just like revising a piece of writing, we can ask follow-up questions to improve the response. Now, for instance, a student might say, "Explain the water cycle." But if the answer is too complicated, the student can reprompt by saying, "Can you explain the water cycle using simple words and include the steps in order using a bullet point format?" Or even, "Can you give me an example of how rain fits into the water cycle?" This helps students see AI as a thinking partner and not just a search engine. Finally, we need to teach students how to evaluate AI responses. Just because it gives an answer doesn't mean it's always correct. 3 quick questions students can ask themselves are, does this answer make sense? Is the information accurate? And how do I know? And should I check another source? You can even turn this into a quick classroom routine where students compare and cross-reference an AI answer with a textbook, a trusted website, or their own class notes. Teaching prompting, reprompting, and evaluating responses helps students build real digital literacy skills. It encourages curiosity, critical thinking, and responsible use of emerging technology. And perhaps most importantly, it shows students that the quality of the question often shapes the quality of the answer. Now, for more on the science of prompt engineering, here are our Google Notebook language model hosts, Bits and Bytes.
Welcome to today's deep dive. You've probably felt it at some point recently, that very specific mix of awe and just total overwhelm.
Well, absolutely staring at the screen.
Right, just staring at a blinking cursor on an AI interface, wondering how to actually get it to do what you want. And today we are tailoring this conversation specifically for you.
Because it's a massive shift.
It is. Whether you're an educator trying to figure out where this technology fits into your classroom, Or maybe you're a student aiming to study smarter, or just a lifelong learner trying to navigate this wild new era. We're tackling a huge topic today: artificial intelligence in education.
Specifically, how you move from feeling completely intimidated by AI to, mastering it through what we call AI literacy and prompt engineering.
Yeah, and it's a critical transition to make. I mean, we are moving entirely away from that old debate of asking if we should use AI.
Right. That ship has sailed.
Exactly. Now we have to focus on how we build the skills to use it effectively, critically, and securely in our daily lives. So to help you build those skills today, we're pulling from two incredibly practical sources.
Two really complementary sources, actually.
Yeah. First, we have a deeply insightful 2024 academic article by Yoshija Walter. It was published in the International Journal of Educational Technology in Higher Education. It details a case study at a Swiss university and outlines the massive pedagogical shift that AI requires from all of us.
And then we're pairing that academic framework with a really hands-on prompt engineering for AI guide, straight from Google Cloud.
Which is so helpful. Because it breaks down the exact syntax and strategies for talking to these machines.
The pairing works beautifully. I mean, the academic piece provides the necessary philosophy, right? While the Google Cloud Guide hands you the actual tactical toolkit.
So the mission for this deep dive is simple. We want to equip you with the foundational skills to use AI, not as a crutch that does all the cognitive heavy lifting for you, but as a powerful interactive tool that actually enhances your own critical thinking. Okay, let's unpack this.
Setting the stage requires looking at the reality of the educational landscape right now. The academic paper points out that the introduction of ChatGPT back in late 2022 fundamentally disrupted traditional education.
Changed everything overnight.
It really did. For decades, we relied heavily on uniform teaching methods, and suddenly we are thrust into a world of highly individualized learning possibilities. AI can instantly adapt to different learning styles.
Which is huge for teachers.
Huge. It can assist individuals with special needs like language processing challenges or sensory impairments. The potential is staggering. But, there is a flip side to that potential.
Right, the anxiety.
The sheer anxiety it has caused. Teachers, administrators, even students are feeling incredibly overwhelmed because the technology is advancing much faster than the curriculum can keep up.
And educators are worried about their own lack of technical fluency, too. They're highly concerned about AI hallucinations.
Oh, the hallucinations?
Yeah, those moments when the AI just confidently fabricates information out of thin air.
Yeah.
But perhaps the biggest fear outlined in the paper is that learners will simply hand over the actual process of thinking to the machine just to minimize their own effort.
Well, yeah, because if the machine generates your entire research paper from a single sentence prompt, you haven't learned how to research. You haven't synthesized information or formed an argument. You've just learned how to order a product.
Just a transaction.
Exactly. And this tension is what makes the case study from the Kaleidos University of Applied Sciences in Zurich so compelling. They faced this exact dilemma.
Because some institutions were attempting to outright ban AI, right?
Which is a policy that is practically impossible to enforce.
Right. And then other institutions were leaving it completely unrestricted, which just invites all those negative consequences we just discussed. So Kaleidos decided to engineer a middle ground approach. They established what they called the AI guidelines.
And the core of those guidelines is built around a concept that reframes the entire relationship we have with computers. The paper stresses that AI should never be treated as your authoritative tutor, and it certainly shouldn't be treated as your ghostwriter.
No. Instead, you need to treat it as a sparring partner.
I love that analogy.
It's so good. Because a sparring partner analogy captures the necessary dynamic perfectly. If you think about a sparring partner in boxing or martial arts, their job is to push you. They test your defenses, they expose your blind spots, and they throw combinations you might not have anticipated.
But they do not fight the actual championship match for you.
Right. You still have to do the work.
Yeah.
In an academic or professional setting, AI can provide alternative suggestions. It can poke holes in your thesis. But you have to maintain the awareness that it is not always right.
And it cannot be unconditionally trusted.
Exactly. You are the one who has to step into the ring when the work is done. And to enforce this mindset, the university didn't just suggest being careful. They implemented 4 strict transparency rules for students using AI in their coursework.
Which I think are brilliant.
Yeah. First, you have to declare exactly which model you used, whether that's GPT-4, Claude 2, or another platform. Second, you must explain the methodology of how and why it was used for that specific assignment.
You have to show your work.
Show your work. Third, you have to visually highlight the exact places in your manuscript where the AI's output was utilized. And fourth, and this is where the critical thinking is really enforced, you have to write out an explanation of how the AI's responses were critically evaluated against hallucinations.
You essentially have to provide the receipts proving you checked its work.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here is that the researchers noted a fundamental truth about human behavior. Simply handing someone a document with rules on it is insufficient.
Yeah, nobody reads the PDF.
Right. You cannot just email a PDF to a student or a teacher and expect their workflow to magically transform. Institutions have to actively build an entirely new culture of AI.
Which takes resources.
It means dedicating time for regular, hands-on workshops. It requires financial budgets to train educators. It demands active, critical engagement with the tools in open environments where failures and successes are discussed transparently.
So, if the rule is to prove you checked its work, how do you actually do that efficiently, especially in a classroom setting? And this is where the Google Cloud Guide comes in. Because managing the AI's output starts before the AI even answers. It starts with the prompt.
The input.
Right. Let's transition into the basics of prompt engineering. At its core, prompt engineering is the art and science of designing your inputs to guide AI models toward generating highly specific, desired responses. You are basically building a roadmap for the statistical model to follow.
And the Google Guide categorizes how we build these roadmaps, starting with the most common method, which is zero-shot prompting. Yeah. This is what most people default to when they open an AI chat. You provide a direct instruction without offering the model any examples of what a good answer looks like. If you type, translate this sentence into French, or summarize this news article, you're executing a zero-shot prompt.
You're relying entirely on the model's pre-existing training to guess the format and tone you want.
Exactly.
But while zero-shot is quick, the guide emphasizes that you unlock vastly superior results with few-shot prompting.
Few-shot is where the magic happens.
It really is. This technique involves giving the model a few highly structured examples to learn from right before you give it the actual task. The source material provides a brilliant, simple illustration of this. Say you're a middle school science teacher setting up a study tool.
Oh, this is a great example.
Yeah, so in the prompt box, you first provide an input and an output pattern. You type input, cat, output, a small furry mammal with whiskers. Then you have a second example, input, dog, output, a domesticated canine known for his loyalty. Finally, you provide the actual prompt, elephant.
And by establishing those first two examples,
right, you're actively tuning the model's parameters for that specific session. You're ensuring it replies with a concise, one-sentence biological description rather than a 5-page essay on elephants.
Notice how that changes the dynamic. You aren't just giving it a command anymore. You are actively programming its behavior. And to help you structure these prompts even further, the Google Cloud Guide outlines 3 critical strategies. First, set clear goals.
Action verbs.
Yes, relying on strong action verbs and defining the exact parameters of the output. If you're an elementary teacher, instead of a vague request like, tell me about the water cycle, you structure the goal. You say, write a bulleted list explaining the 4 main stages of the water cycle. You define the length, the format, and the action.
The second strategy is to provide context, because you get way better answers when you anchor the AI to specific facts or scenarios. Rather than asking a generic question about climate change, you feed it the premise. You prompt, given that global temperatures have risen 1 degree, outline the specific consequences for coastal sea levels.
You're building a fence around the information it can pull from.
Exactly. And the third strategy, which honestly is often the most overlooked, is to be specific. The guide uses a wonderful literary example to highlight this. A zero-shot, unspecific prompt would be, write a long poem.
Which could mean anything.
Right. The AI has to guess what long means and what style you prefer. A highly specific, engineered prompt looks like this. Write a sonnet with 14 lines that explores themes of love and loss. You provide the exact architectural constraints the model needs to generate something genuinely useful.
Whether you're a middle schooler studying for a test or a teacher drafting a lesson plan, being precise with your goals, context, and specificity is the secret to unlocking the AI's actual utility. It reduces that friction of having to constantly ask it to rewrite things because it didn't understand your unspoken expectations.
And when it does occasionally miss the mark, you utilize reprompting. You don't abandon the thread, right? You iterate. You tell the AI that response was too formal, rewrite it using a conversational tone, and include an analogy. You treat the conversation as a continuous refinement process.
Which is such a powerful self-assessment tool for younger students, too. Teaching them to reprompt helps them recognize when an answer is incomplete.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because beyond just asking for summaries or poems, the academic paper dives into advanced pedagogical prompting techniques that actually change the way the AI processes logic. Let's look at chain of thought prompting, often abbreviated as COT.
Chain of thought prompting leverages a very specific quirk in how these large language models operate. Researchers discovered that asking the AI to explicitly explain its intermediate reasoning steps drastically improves the accuracy of its final output.
It's like telling a math student to show their work.
Exactly like that. If you give it a classic elementary math problem, say, John has 5 apples, he eats 2, how many does he have? A zero-shot prompt just asks for the answer. But with chain of thought, you prompt the AI to show its work. You say, step 1, John starts with 5 apples. Step 2, he eats 2 apples. 5 minus 2 equals 3. Answer, 3.
And by forcing the model to generate the logical sequence token by token, it actually calculates more effectively, because it's processing the logic in smaller, manageable statistical steps.
Right. It forces the statistical pathway to be more rigorous.
Which leads to one of the most counterintuitive discoveries mentioned in the research. Studies found that if you simply append the phrase, take a deep breath and do it step by step, to the end of your prompt, the AI's performance on logic puzzles significantly increases.
Which is wild.
It sounds completely absurd. You're telling a data server in a cooling center to take a deep breath.
Right. But researchers hypothesize that within its massive training data, that specific phrase is heavily associated with careful, nuanced, highly methodical human problem solving. By using those words, you trigger the model to access a better statistical pathway.
It is a profound reminder that we are not interacting with a calculator. We are interacting with a statistical mirror of human language. Which brings us to a technique that takes this concept even further: tree of thought prompting.
Yes. The tree of thought method is fascinating. This is often referred to as the 3 experts technique.
I love this one.
The setup requires you to literally tell the AI to adopt personas. You prompt it to imagine 3 separate experts discussing a complex problem step by step. You explicitly instruct the AI that these simulated experts should concede mistakes, challenge each other's assumptions, and debate until they reach a consensus on the most logical answer.
And the paper provides a classic logic puzzle to demonstrate why this is necessary. It's the story of Thomas at the pool.
Right. The puzzle goes like this. Thomas is at the pool. He takes off his watch and wraps it in his towel. He then dries himself off. He walks over to the kiosk, realizes he forgot his towel, and immediately jumps into the pool. The question is, where is the watch?
To a human, we immediately start visualizing the physical movements. But a standard zero-shot prompt completely broke GPT 3.5. It confidently gave the wrong answer because it couldn't track the object's state through the sequence of events.
It loses the thread.
Totally. However, when researchers applied tree of thought prompting, the AI simulated a debate. One expert noted the watch was in the towel. The second expert argued that to dry off, Thomas had to unwrap the towel, meaning the watch was either put down or put back on his wrist.
And then the third expert reasoned that if he forgot the towel at the pool but jumped in the water, the watch, if on his wrist, is in the water, or it is wherever he dried off.
By forcing the AI to simulate this multi-threaded debate, it successfully navigated the spatial logic and found the correct answer.
You are essentially forcing the model to map out a decision tree, and it evaluates the probability of each branch before committing to a final output. Another highly effective advanced technique is self-consistency prompting.
Which is great for self-assessment.
Absolutely. This is where you utilize the AI to evaluate its own generations based on strict user-defined criteria.
The outline provides a great example of this regarding image generation or aesthetic evaluation. You could ask the AI to generate multiple different reasoning lines for assessing the beauty of a portrait, specifically based on facial symmetry.
So instead of just asking, is this a good portrait, you are defining the exact mathematical or aesthetic criteria symmetry and asking it to consistently apply that rule across multiple analyses before giving you a final assessment.
It transforms the AI from a simple generator into an analytical tool. But of course, all these techniques assume you know what you want to ask in the first place.
Which isn't always the case.
No. A major hurdle discussed in the paper is the tabula rasa problem, the blank slate. You're a teacher staring at the screen on a Sunday night, and you simply don't have the mental bandwidth to engineer a complex prompt.
The solution the researchers point to is called the Automatic Prompt Engineer, or APE. This is where you provide the AI with a finished example of something you love, and you ask it to reverse engineer the prompt.
Okay, the outline uses the example of a love letter, but let's say you're a middle school history teacher. You want to generate a deeply engaging, historically accurate diary entry from the perspective of a Civil War soldier. But you don't know how to instruct the AI to capture that specific tone without sounding generic.
Right. So you can paste an actual historical letter that you love into the chat and ask, analyze the tone, pacing, and vocabulary of this letter. What specific prompts should I use to instruct you to help me write my own fictional entry with this exact emotional resonance?
You're effectively asking the machine to teach you its own language. It is a brilliant strategy for overcoming the initial friction of the blank page.
It really is. However, as you begin utilizing automatic prompt engineers and tree of thought debates, it is vital to ground ourselves in the reality of what this technology actually is. The academic paper explicitly maps out the sub-skills required for true AI literacy.
And the foundation of that literacy is understanding the inherent pitfalls of statistical models. Because at the end of the day, that is what they are. They are incredibly complex prediction engines guessing the next most likely token based on their training data.
They are not truth generators.
No. And the paper categorizes 4 specific problems you must constantly watch for, especially if you're introducing this to younger students.
The first, which we touched on, is AI hallucinations, the confident invention of facts, citations, or historical events. The second is AI alignment. This occurs when the AI executes a task, but the outcome fundamentally misaligns with your actual intent, often in really subtle ways that require careful review to catch.
The third is AI discrimination. Because these models are trained on massive data sets of human language, they inherently absorb and can reproduce historical human biases or stereotype data regarding underrepresented groups.
Which is a crucial conversation to have in the classroom. And the fourth pitfall is AI lock-in. This is a phenomenon where the AI gets stuck in a specific narrative loop or repetitive structural pattern and becomes unable to see the broader context of your task.
Looking for a smarter way to protect and use your tech on the go? The Higher Ground Gear DataKeeper Plus CS is built for action. Work directly from the case without ever removing your device. Stay organized with a built-in storage pocket for accessories, and rest easy knowing you've got serious drop protection designed for real-world classrooms and busy professionals. The DataKeeper Plus CS. Organize smarter, protect better, and work wherever you are. For more information, visit hggear.com today. Looking to spark excitement in your classroom and save time? Head over to Highly Motivated on Teachers Pay Teachers. From engaging lesson plans to creative lab books and test prep tools, these resources are designed to inspire learning and take the planning stress off your plate. Highly Motivated, motivating teaching resources that engage and inspire. For more, search Highly Motivated on Teachers Pay Teachers.
Now, to truly drive home how alien the logic of these models can be compared to human cognition, the researchers highlighted a fascinating anomaly involving adversarial prompts. This is a crucial concept for understanding why we can never blindly trust the output.
Oh, this anomaly is wild.
It is so strange. So researchers working with the image generation model, DALL-E, discovered that typing a completely nonsensical phrase, specifically the characters turbohalf, followed by a checkmark, reliably generated pictures of dogs.
It wasn't a fluke. It happened consistently.
And to a human brain, turbohalf has absolutely zero linguistic connection to a canine.
Nothing.
Exactly. And the anomaly went even further. When they typed a long string of complete gibberish, apoplo visriaites, the model reliably generated highly specific images of birds eating berries.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it fundamentally demystifies the technology. Why does apoplo visriaites equal birds eating berries? Because the AI does not see letters or words the way we do.
It sees tokens.
Yes, it processes complex mathematical representations in a high-dimensional space. Somewhere in the billions of parameters and compressed data of its training, the numerical values of that specific gibberish happen to map closely to the numerical values associated with images of birds and berries.
It's just a mathematical artifact.
And this proves why critical thinking is paramount. The machine does not understand reality, it processes math.
So how do we actively build that critical muscle for ourselves and for others, especially for our students? The academic paper suggests a framework called teaching scaffolding. This is how you transition from knowing the pitfalls to actively navigating them.
Scaffolding involves several practical steps. It includes prompt scaffolding, where you provide hints and contextual boundaries before asking the AI to perform a task. It requires explicit reflection. intentionally pausing after generating an output to ask, where are the potential hallucinations here? What bias might be present?
And it also involves modeling. If you are an educator or a team leader, you should actively display your AI interactions on a screen, showing your students where you make mistakes in your prompting and demonstrating exactly how you correct and refine them in real time.
To assist with this scaffolding, the sources mention a few specific tools that are really worth exploring to practice these skills. There's Ticino, which is designed to help structure curriculum and workflows.
Oh, and there's Perplexity, which acts as an advanced knowledge retrieval engine. It's highly useful because it actively searches the web and connects its information directly to external clickable citations, which significantly reduces the risk of unverified hallucinations.
The paper also mentions Hello History. This is a tool that allows you to chat with digital recreations of historical personas. Imagine the prompt engineering required to effectively interview an AI simulating an ancient philosopher, or a Civil War soldier for a middle school project. You have to utilize intense specificity and context to get a valuable answer.
Finally, platforms like Kahoot and Quizzes are increasingly integrating AI to gamify the learning process, allowing users to test their knowledge interactively, which, again, is perfect for the elementary and middle school level. The overarching theme across all these tools and techniques is active engagement. It's about building a workflow where you interrogate the machine rather than passively accepting its first draft. So what does this all mean for you?
It all comes back to AI literacy.
Exactly. As we wrap up this deep dive, the main takeaway is that your goal shouldn't just be learning the exact syntax of a computer command. The goal is cultivating true AI literacy. Whether you are standing in front of a middle school classroom, researching a complex topic, or trying to explain these concepts to someone else, mastering prompt engineering empowers you.
It completely shifts the power dynamic.
It does. It allows you to confidently treat AI as a collaborator, a rigorous sparring partner, while keeping your own critical thinking sharp and engaged.
You know, I think there is a profound secondary benefit to all of this. A thought to leave you with that extends even beyond the scope of the research we analyze today.
I'd love to hear it.
If the discipline of prompt engineering is essentially the practice of setting extremely clear goals, providing exact context, removing ambiguity, and breaking complex problems down into step-by-step logical sequences.
Yeah.
Is it possible that learning how to clearly talk to artificial intelligence might actually end up making us much better, more empathetic, and clearer communicators with other human beings?
Wow, that is a phenomenal question to end on. If we are forced to be perfectly precise and context-aware with a machine, perhaps we will carry that clarity into our human interactions. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you walk away feeling a little less overwhelmed by the blinking cursor and vastly more equipped to take control of the conversation. Keep exploring these tools, keep testing your digital sparring partners, and above all, keep questioning the output. See you next time.
For more on Classroom Dynamics, follow us on X at Class Dynamics or on Instagram at Classroom Dynamics Podcast. And be sure to search Classroom Dynamics on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast shows.